Today, the United States declared Venezuela a national security threat and ordered sanctions against 7 officials in the worst diplomatic dispute with that country since socialist President Nicolas Maduro took office 2 years ago. President Barack Obama issued and signed the executive order, which senior administration officials said did not target the energy sector or Venezuelans' broader economy. The move raises tensions between Washington and Venezuela, just as U.S. relations with Cuba are set to be normalized. Declaring a country a national security threat is the first step in starting a sanctions regime. The same process has been followed with countries such as Iran and Syria. The Obama administration said the executive order targeted people whose actions undermined democratic processes of institutions, had committed acts of violence or abuse of human rights, were involved in prohibiting or penalizing freedom of expression, or were government officials involved in public corruption. Now, that last paragraph, doesn't that sound like the Republicans in the U.S. Senate? Of course it does, and the House. White House spokesman Josh Earnest said in a statement, quote, Venezuelan officials, past and present, who violate the human rights of Venezuelan citizens and engage in acts of public corruption will not be welcome here. And we now have the tools to block their assets and their use of U.S. financial systems. We are deeply concerned by the Venezuelan government's efforts to escalate intimidation of its political opponents. Venezuela's problems cannot be solved by criminalizing dissent, end quote. Oh, really? Hey, Josh, can you spell hypocrisy? Can't be solved by criminalizing dissent. How many names should I give you? Chelsea Manning? Ed Snowden? How many more? There's a couple of guys locked up? Criminalizing dissent? Wait. I'm sorry. I forgot. That's right. Manning and Snowden are guilty of treason. And these 47 pig bastards in the U.S. Senate who wrote the letter to the leaders of Iran, the hardline leaders, are not. Jesus. Venezuelan Foreign Minister Delcy Rodriguez told reporters that Caracas would respond to the U.S. move soon. The 7 officials or individuals named in the order, which include top domestic security and intelligence officials, would have their property and interests in the United States blocked or frozen and would be denied entry into the United States. U.S. persons would also be prohibited from doing business with them. Now, this is Venezuela. This is the country that the United States has on several occasions attempted to overthrow. The governments of this country we have attempted to overthrow. We have tried to instigate military coups against. I'm talking about the past 10 years. I'm not talking about the bad old days. This is Venezuela. The government of Venezuela owns the Citgo gas stations. You probably buy gas there, right? The White House ordered Venezuela, or called on Venezuela, to release all political prisoners. Let's start here, Mr. Obama. Let's start in Guantanamo. There's some political prisoners. There are people in Guantanamo who've been there for 10 goddamn years who haven't even been charged with a crime. And we are lecturing Venezuela, and these 47 members of the U.S. Senate are lecturing Iran. What in the hell is going on? I'm telling you, you better make sure that you're prepared for some hard times coming, because they are right around the corner, y'all. We'll be right back. Remember, I'll tell you when the United States really got pissed off at Venezuela, when Venezuela said, recent times, how many times have we tried to overthrow their government? How many times have they tried to overthrow our government? How many times have they destabilized our economy? How many times have we provided gas or heating oil to Venezuelans because their government would not help them? which is what Chavez did here. Do you remember? When was it? 8, 9 years ago? 7, 10, 11, 6? Whenever it was. Remember? But the Venezuelans just wouldn't play nice. They insist that the oil in their coastal waters in their country really does belong to them. Oh, well, where do you get that idea? The White House called on Venezuela to release all political prisoners, including, quote, dozens of students, end quote, and warned against blaming Washington for its problems. When was the last time the Venezuelan Navy had ships standing off the coast of Maryland while with fighter jets on board those ships, while members of the United States Congress armed, or the United States military armed, tried to overthrow the elected government of the United States, with Venezuela waiting offshore to provide assistance? When was the last time that happened? That's goddamn never happened. When was the last time we did it to Venezuela? 6 years ago? 8 years ago? But Josh Earnest says, quote, we've seen many times that the Venezuelan government tries to distract from its own actions by blaming the United States for events inside Venezuela. Well, maybe there's a reason for that, Josh. Maybe it's because we do that. Oh, and remember when Venezuela defaulted on all that money? Was that Venezuela or Argentina? It doesn't matter. And then Ernest had the balls to say the efforts to blame the U.S. reflect a lack of seriousness on the part of the Venezuelan government to deal with the grave situation it faces. The grave situation it faces partly caused by this constant attempt to undermine their government, their economy, their society by the United States. It never stops. I was reading something today about Guatemala. Guatemala ranks right up near the top of the number of its own citizens murdered by its right-wing paramilitary and military, trained, sponsored, supported, and paid for by the U.S. government. But we're not supposed to talk about that. The Obama administration said last week it would respond through diplomatic channels to Venezuela's demand for a cut in the U.S. Embassy's staff in Caracas after the government called for a plan within 15 days to reduce staff to 17 from 100 at the American Embassy in Caracas, Venezuela. How many of those 100 do you think are CIA agents or CIA/Mossad agents? How many of the 100? 80? All of them? Venezuela says, get 83 of these bastards out of here. How does the United States respond? By issuing a statement that says Venezuela is a national security threat. We'll be right back. See, we have to have these regional enemies, Southeast Asia, Central America, South America, Middle East. We've got to have them for U.S. foreign policy to work, the foreign policy that is run by the corporate slave masters that want to dominate the world, not politically dominate. They don't care about policy, but the economic domination. And in order to do that, they have to destabilize the country, maybe bring about war, revolution. Everything gets smashed up. Then the IMF and the World Bank can move in. Next thing you know, we own them. It's very simple. What's that, disaster capitalism? Whatever the hell it's called. Okay, so the sanctions that the Obama administration announced today effectively confirms Venezuela is the new Cuba. The Cuba. Venezuela is the You know, when Chavez was sick, where did he go? He went to Havana. Then the Havana doctors came to him. Right? Oh, God, what was that? Why didn't he come to the Mayo Clinic or Johns Hopkins or someplace? No, no, no. He went to Cuba. Or was it Fidel who went to Venezuela? Who knows? But they don't want anything to do with us. And rightly so. All we've ever done, all we have ever done to our hemispheric neighbors is poison, murder, kill, destabilize, overthrow their governments, send in death squads that we train. Son of a bitch, the hypocrisy is almost too much. So now we're declaring sanctions on Venezuela, the new Cuba. So Mr. Obama, on the one hand, gets his bloomers in a twitch, excuse me, because 47 Republicans are doing what Republicans do, trying to make alliances with the fascists who want to take over, destroy, open up death camps, whatever the hell they want to do. I don't care. I don't even know anymore. On the one hand, Obama gets all twisted about that. On the other hand, he declares Venezuela a threat to the United States? What? Their Air Force? Their Army? Their Navy? Washington and Havana, you see, announced a diplomatic breakthrough back in December. Son of a bitch, it took them 3 months to find a new Cuba. Well, it's Venezuela. Venezuela.